So how do we work together when we're not together? This talk is full of practical examples and stories of what we've learned from experiences working remotely and what you can do to make sure you're working together effectively. But first, I wanted to start, as all good design thinking processes do, with some empathy and with my own personal story. It's not just you, this is exhausting. I am exhausted. A lot of you mentioned at the check-in just earlier that you were tired or you were maybe a little bit struggling. Well, as soon as the lockdown happened, I moved my whole life online. I've been on Zoom calls for upwards of 12 hours a day, every single day for weeks, and I'm sure I'm not alone. Every aspect of our lives have now moved onto these tiny little squares, these tiny video screens. But it seems like we moved everything online without consideration for what the change meant. One of my friends describes this as going from Hawaii to Antarctica and expecting the clothes that you're wearing in Hawaii to work for you in Antarctica, and they just don't. You need to change depending on where you are, depending on the situation. And we've all tried to do the same amount of hours, meeting online for work, socializing online, speaking to your friends and family online, everything on video. I've done about 400,000 pub quizzes, and I hated pub quizzes before, and they are so much worse on a video. I've even done an online hen do, something that shouldn't happen. Some things just shouldn't be recorded for video. These things probably shouldn't be happening, but we're doing it because we're trying to get along and just trying to make it work. I've also started 3 new projects whilst being remote. And I only started at Spark in February, so I've done a lot of meeting new people and starting new things without ever actually having met them. What I have is video fatigue, something which I'm sure a lot of us have experienced. And I really wanted to investigate a little bit why that is. So with that awareness, we can hopefully start to change that. Firstly, it's just much harder to build rapport on a video screen. Have you ever met someone for the first time and just immediately connected with them? You feel like you've known them forever. Well, that's because you are in rapport. Your heartbeat was in sync, your breathing even. You're probably matching and mirroring their body language. And all of this was done subconsciously. But we've lost that ability to naturally fall into rapport and connect with one another in that easy, instant way. And because we're just floating heads on screen, all we have is our voice. But our voices just don't really communicate like our physical communication, and we just don't have any of those non-verbal cues. Video chats mean we have to work so much harder to just process people's facial expressions, their shoulders, how they're holding themselves, and that becomes very, very, very tiring, and it consumes a huge amount of energy. Secondly, we just want to admit that sometimes video calls can be a little bit awkward. There's sometimes silences. And silences normally in conversation, in real life conversation, can create a natural rhythm. But with a video call, we can become anxious about the technology, and it can make people uncomfortable. One 2014 study by German academics showed that delays on phone or conferencing systems shaped our views of people negatively. Even delays of 1.2 seconds made people perceive the responder as less friendly or focused. And that can be really tricky when we're trying to do user interviews and trying to get people's trust and connect with them. So my main tip for you, my major piece of advice, is to make explicit what was once implicit. We can't build rapport naturally, and we can't have easy, instant connection. We have to work harder to connect and empathize. So I recommend taking time to check in with everyone, and in doing so, build trust and inclusion as a daily habit and ritual. A non-judgmental, whole person check-in at the start of the meeting builds that trust and vulnerability. And this was where people go around in a table and express how they are. It's what we did at the beginning of this session, and it doesn't really take that much time at all. But it's a very quick way of just gauging how people are doing. And if I can make one kind of suggestion, I would really recommend making that check-in physical if you can. So when people go around and express how they're doing in a morning meeting, just get them to do a stretch at the same time and ask everyone else to do that stretch at the same time too. And then what you're doing is forcing people into physical rapport and getting them to match and mirror each other. And in doing so, we're connected in a way that is non-verbal, that allows us to be with each other in a more of a present way. And it really means that we can get up and move a little bit after we've been sat down on video all the time. So to summarize, my key takeaways are: take time to build rapport, make explicit what was once implicit. As we aren't all in the same room anymore, we need to work harder, and we need to be conscious about how we do that. And lastly, check in and check out. Make time so that everyone can be seen and heard.